Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. Welcome to Villa Park, where I'm sure you already know by now Arsenal have been beaten 2-1. The unbeaten run, which had stretched to 18 games, has come to an end here at Villa Park against an Aston Villa side that just love getting one over Arsenal, especially since Unai Emery has arrived. Just such a disappointing way to finish this game. It looked for a long time like it was going to be a draw, but BY Buendia, who I'm watching right in front of me now, just go through some warm downs on the pitch, came off the bench to score the most dramatic of winners for Aston Villa. And I tell you what, I've heard a lot of loud football stadiums in my lifetime doing this, and I'll go a long way to hearing a roar of the sort of the noise that goal from BY Buendia at the whole end created here. It was absolute bedlam at Villa Park when that one went in. It's a win, huge for them, of course, moves them into 3 points of league leaders Arsenal, puts them firmly in a title race. You have to say, you look at Aston Villa's form, they've been the best team since September. Their home form is incredible. I think 2 defeats in about 30 odd in the Premier League. Got to consider them in the title race after this. And I think that the noise that goal created and the buzz inside the stadium that goal created tells you, certainly made you feel like they believe they've got a chance. And for Arsenal, it's just a really disappointing way to end the game. It's the third away game in a row without a win in the Premier League. They've now 2 of the last 3 away games have conceded goals deep into stoppage time, real dagger goals as well. You know, the equaliser at Sunderland, the winner here today. And it's just really, really disappointing. You saw they were on their knees at full time, the Arsenal players. You know, I was worried about this game. I had to say it had the feel the whole time of one game too far. It had that feel around it with the injuries Arsenal have had, the last 2 weeks that Arsenal have had. You know, this is a 5th game in 13 days for them, real high intensity games as well. Just had a feeling this was going to be a difficult afternoon. A draw wouldn't have been a great result, but it wouldn't have been a bad result. And to have got so close to have getting themselves a draw, to have come from behind to do it the way they did, you know, it wouldn't have been a brilliant result. It wouldn't have been one worth celebrating or anything like that, but it would have been a really hard-earned point, and it would have kept Aston Villa 6 points behind them. So to concede the way they did, to lose the game the way they did, you could see how demoralising it was for those players. So they collapsed on the turf as Buendia and his teammates ran off celebrating. Psychologically, we'll have to wait and see what sort of impact this defeat will have. But it's just a bit of a sticky patch for Arsenal now. Obviously, as I said, 3 games in a row now away from home in the Premier League that they failed to win. I think it's 2 wins in the last 5 in the Premier League. So need to find a way. I mean, it does get easier after this. This was the end of a horrible run for Arsenal. When you look at it now, you know, they go to Bruges in the Champions League in midweek. There's going to be mass changes, you would think, for that game. Then they've got Wolves at home next week in the evening on Saturday. Then they've got a whole nother week off again until the following week again when they go to Everton. So it does get easier now for Arsenal. The schedule starts to relax a little bit, and that should give some of these players some time to get some more energy in the legs, because you can really see they're kind of running on empty a little bit today. And you saw that in the last sort of 10 minutes or so. It became a very stretched game, a very chaotic game, as it tends to be at Villa Park. The way the Villa play, the high intensity they play, it always tends to be a pretty chaotic game. Both teams could have won it. You know, Arsenal easily could have won this game. It was on a knife edge. They had the chances after coming back to equalise through Leandro Trossard. They had chances after that to win it. Kai Saka had one cleared off the line. Madueke put one in the side netting just before Buendia scored. There was other opportunities for them as well, but at the other end, you know, Daniel Malin could have scored for Aston Villa. They had other chances, and in the end, it was Buendia. You kind of felt in those last few minutes that there could be a winner. It had that feel to it. Weren't sure who was going to get it, but it was Aston Villa in the end. And yeah, you could see how disappointed the Arsenal players were. We'll see what Mikel says in his press conference. I'll head down there in a minute, but this was a tough one to take for Arsenal. Absolutely tough one to take. I mean, they were pretty poor in the first half, Arsenal. I think they went in trailing, and I think Villa probably just about deserved their lead at half-time. The team was as I predicted this morning. So Eze was starting on the left, but Eze had a really poor first half. He was pretty much a passenger over there on the left-hand side, and he got caught out for the goal, which was Matty Cash scored. It was whipped in from just in front of me down here. Timber tried to get his head on it. He did get his head on it, but he just sort of glanced it onto the back post, and Matty Cash just sneaked in behind Eze, who was ball watching, didn't really move, didn't anticipate anything. And Matty Cash was a good finish straight through the legs of David Raya. It was 1-0 at that stage. And I wouldn't say it was definitely coming, but, you know, Arsenal had been pretty underwhelming at that point. The forwards weren't really working. Saka was a bit sloppy in possession. Marino just was totally ineffective as a striker. As I said, was a bit of a passenger out there on the left-hand side. I wouldn't say Villa were absolutely flying at that point and deserving of their lead, but they were probably the more threatening of the two. Ollie Watkins had a good chance at Raya to save. Matty Cash had another opportunity just before the goal, which Declan Rice had sort of flung himself in front of to block. And then the goal came. So it was 1-0 at half-time. Wondered if Arteta would make changes. He did. Straight away at half-time, Trossard came on, Gyökeres came off, Eza and Marino went off, which I thought was a good double change. It was a front foot double change, and it made an immediate impact. Arsenal were very good after that. For the first sort of 20 minutes or so of the second half, they were dominant. They had chances. Trossard could have scored before he did. He eventually turned in the equaliser after Saka's shot had been saved. And Arsenal were just on the front foot, but the half wore on. You could see the tiredness creeping in. You could see the wide open spaces being created. It was a very chaotic basketball type game. Trossard went off. He did about half. He did bang on half an hour basically. It obviously was half an hour earlier than they expected. They thought it would obviously bring him on maybe at the hour mark, but because they brought him on at half time, obviously with the medical staff, they said he can do no more than 30 minutes or you're risking aggravating the injury. So they took him off after half an hour. Which was 75-minute mark. Martinelli came on. Mars Lewis-Skelly came on. Calafiori was looking absolutely shattered. I thought Declan Rice and Zubimendi looked tired in that last 10 minutes. There were spaces that were being created because of that. And ultimately, the goal sort of came from it. I mean, Hincapié could have done better. I actually thought Hincapié played quite well, to be honest, in the centre-back role. I thought he looked probably a little bit more assured than Timber at times. I turned to Tom Cannon, who I was sitting next to, and I was like, Hincapié's done well as that second half wore on. But he should have cleared his lines better than he did in the incident that sort of led to the big mad melee, which Buendia eventually scored from. He sort of put it out from a throw-in when he probably should have cleared his lines. And had he cleared his line, the full-time whistle would have gone because it was 4 minutes of stoppage time. I think the goal went in probably about plus 4 minutes and 20 seconds or something like that because Arsenal couldn't clear. The ref didn't blow the whistle. And then eventually, after I think Raya made a point-blank save, I think maybe from Buendia, and then Arsenal just couldn't get the ball out. They made a couple of challenges, sort of flung himself in, blocked a couple of shots, but then it just fell for Buendia and he finished it off and there was no time to come back. The referee's whistle went literally straight away after that. It was the last kick of the game. And it was job done for Aston Villa and a painful journey home for Arsenal and the Arsenal fans who were great over there in the away end. I mean, it's a feeling we haven't had for a while, defeat. Obviously, it's going to create an emotional response as it always does, which is fine. But it is a first defeat in 19 games, and there is a lot of context behind it, which a lot of people might not look at straight away, which is, again, absolutely fine. But there is context behind this defeat, and I think the key thing now is just to stay together, I think, as a team, and they will. I'm sure they will. Have a bit of a rest this week. I hope Mikel makes some changes against Bruges. I know there's still a top 2 position to try and win in the Champions League, but it feels like he's got to make some changes against Bruges, give some players who desperately need a bit of a rest, some time off, and then group together, go again, make sure you get the points on Saturday against Wolves at the Emirates, and then just try and start off another run like they've been on right now. Right, I'm going to go through my player ratings now. Remember, I'm going to do a much more in-depth reaction show tomorrow, as always, so we'll get the views of Mikel Arteta in that. I'll go over the ratings again, get your views, so please do get down into the comments below. Leave me your thoughts on what you saw here today. I'll pull some of them together and get them included in the show. Right, ratings-wise, so Raya gave a 7 out of 10. He made one brilliant save from Watkins in the first half. Made a couple in the second half as well. Good stops. He was really unlucky in the goal for Buendia. He'd made a good point-blank save in that melee as well. And the defenders just couldn't get the ball clear. So unlucky to be beaten late on. I gave him 7 out of 10. I thought Ben White was pretty bright again on the right-hand side. Might not be as eye-catching as he was in midweek against Brentford, but it was a still good performance, I thought, at times from White. More positive signs as he looks to get himself back to sort of full fitness and back in the side. So I gave him a 7. I gave Timber a 7. As well, you could see still adjusting to that centre-back role. There was a tendency, especially in the first half when he was playing on my side, you could see he was drifting over to the right-back position a lot, and there was leaving a bit of space between him and Hincapié. But he did put in a really good shift, I thought, and he was another player who desperately looks like he needs a bit of a rest if he can somehow be given it over the next week or so. I gave him a 7. Hincapié, I've dropped down to a 6. I had him on a 7, and I dropped him down to a 6 just because I do think it was a costly error late on when he probably will look at it and think, you know what, I could have done better there rather than just put it out for a throw-in like that and keep the ball down this end of the pitch. I could have just got rid of it. Had I got rid of it, the full-time whistle would have gone and we'd have got a point. So I dropped him down to a 6. I gave Calafiori a 7. I thought he was probably Arsenal's best player, Calafiori, even in the first half when Arsenal were pretty poor. He was the one sort of standout player for me. I thought defensively he was pretty solid. I thought going forward as well, he created problems as he always does. So I gave him 7 out of 10. He's probably my man of the match, Calafiori, to be fair. Midfield, I gave Zubimendi and Rice 7s. It was they're nearer 6.5s than 7s. I say certainly Zubimendi, but both of them were pretty good. They tired in towards the end, definitely tired towards the end. You know, Rice, you could see he's just looking absolutely shattered at the moment. Made one brilliant block, Rice, in the first half to deny Matty Cash, and he was running himself into the ground in the second half. So I gave those both 7s. Probably nearer a 6.5 than a 7, to be fair. Odegaard, I gave a 6. Had a good chance early on. They put straight at Martinez. He was involved in the goal for Sacco. Had a really good shot that was tipped over from Martinez in the second half. Had another one that he put straight at Martinez. It'll probably be disappointed he didn't find the corner with. So I gave him 6 out of 10. Odegaard. I gave Saka a 7. He had some good moments. Unusually poor in possession, I thought, in the first half, especially. Really grew into it in the second half as a threat. Got a yellow card and got taken off pretty soon after that, especially, and he just had a sort of challenge with Martinez as well, where the Villa fans were trying to get him a second yellow card. It was never a second yellow. He was involved in the goal. Obviously, it was his shot that was saved that led to Trossard scoring. So I gave him a 7. Marino gave a 5. He's been good of late, Marino, but he was just totally ineffective today, totally ineffective. So I gave him a 5. He was replaced at half-time. I gave Eze a 4. Thought Eze was really, really poor. Just wasn't involved in the game at all in an attacking sense and switched off defensively and got caught out for that. Obviously hooked at half-time. Mikel Arteta will not be happy with his part in Matty Cash's goal. So I gave him a 4. The subs who came on, obviously Trossard and Gyökeres came on and made a big impact. Trossard was the star of the show, really, in that second half when he came on, scored. Would just, you know, again, Arsenal's missed the clutch, basically, popping up, scoring, could only do half an hour, but you know, it was a real shift for the team that he put in. Gyökeres not as eye-catching as Trossard, but he still caused Villa, you know, some problems in terms of his running, his directness, and it just stretched them a little bit more than they were in the first half when Arsenal had Marino up top. So I gave Gyökeres a 6. Martinelli and Lewis Skelly came on right towards the end, so I'm not going to give them marks at all today. And so that is it in terms of my player ratings from Villa Park and my immediate match reaction. As I said, tomorrow morning we'll look at things a lot more in depth, and if you want to get involved in that show, just get down into the comments, leave your views on what you've seen here today, and I'll pull some of them together as always and get them included in the show. Right, enjoy the rest of your weekend, he says, knowing that you probably won't on the back of that result, but there's plenty more things to keep us entertained between now and the end of the weekend. So try and enjoy the weekend if you can. But from Villa Park, it's finished Aston Villa 2, Arsenal 1.